Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be exploring the history of one of Britain's most famous trains, the revolutionary Class 390 Pendolino. We are going to see how it formed from a failed British project years earlier, its good days and one of its worst and darkest days. So let's go and explore the history of Branson's baby. But first, let's explore Pendolino's origins. It is the 1970s and British Rail is rapidly developing a new tilting train. At the time, British Rail was falling behind and the system was dilapidated. They needed a train that could travel fast but also traverse the corners. Their answer was this, the tilting train, the advanced passenger train. It took nearly a decade to develop. It was meant to be the train of the future, the train that could tell the world Britain was back on track. However, and with pressure from the government, British Rail was forced to rush the APT into service. And the tilt failed several times. And on the second day, one of the APTs broke down. British Rail's comeback ultimately flopped. And the older electric locomotives returned. Tilting trains in Britain had ultimately failed. Until privatisation of Britain's railway network led to the West Coast franchise going to the Virgin Rail Group, who promised new, fast and tilting intercity trains by 2002. Fiat and Alstom were put forward to build the trains and the tilting system. And the trains began to enter service during the early 2000s. They were sleek and curved and very modern, compared to the old boxy locomotives that came before. The fantastic train could tilt into bends, allowing the trains to maintain speed around the sharp curves. The Pendolino's tilting mechanism uses electrically operated actuators under each carriage. They also use gyroscopes to detect the tilt and lateral acceleration to calculate the optimate tilting as the Pendolino travels. By 2004, the Pendolinos had replaced virtually all of the older electric locomotives. It was time to see what the Pendolino could do. On September the 22nd, 2006, a Pendolino broke the southbound speed record from Glasgow to London. The Pendolino completed the 400-mile journey of the West Coast Main Line in 3 hours and 55 minutes, which broke the previous southbound run time of 4 hours and 14 minutes set by British Rail's advanced passenger train. The train hurtled through all of the stations along the West Coast Main Line, and altogether £30,000 were generated for charity. The Pendolino arrived at Euston with its horn blaring and lights flashing, much to the amusement of commuters. The train eased to the buffers and passengers dispersed off, congratulating the driver. However, there was still one more hurdle for the Pendolino to cross. How would it react to a high-speed rail crash? And this was found out on the 23rd of February 2007. A Pendolino service crashed due to defective points from poor maintenance in Cumbria. Tragically, one passenger perished. However, the Pendolino was praised due to its strong, robust construction, which saved many more lives. The driver of the train was also credited for his heroism. The Pendolino involved was written off, meaning Virgin Trains was a Pendolino down. In the early 2010s, most Pendolinos were extended from 9 carriages to 11 carriages, which boosted capacity on these busy routes. And in 2017, some Pendolinos were given a new, fresh look. A new, vibrant colour scheme for these workhorses. However, sadly, this wouldn't last long, as in 2019, Avanti West Coast with First Group and Trenitalia took over the West Coast Main Line. The Pendolinos were stripped of their virgin red and grey and replaced in a white monochrome and boring livery. However, just as the world was being grasped by coronavirus, a new livery emerged. Avanti's blue, orange and white. And our final note on this story is in 2021, when a Pendolino attempted the northbound record service from London to Glasgow. However, the train fell just short of the record, which, although was a bit of a disappointment, still showed that these nearly 20-year-old units still had some power in them. However, it's not all about the speed and power. The Pendolinos were a revolution to the West Coast Main Line, with journey times being cut short, comfort increasing. These marvellous units will continue to run the West Coast Main Line loyally for the next decade or so. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.